Jared, are you coming up first?
Yes. I'll be
Okay,
starting
Jared
off.
will be discussing the solar part of PA116.
All right, thank you, Catherine and Brittany, for putting this all together, and thank you everybody for showing up, giving us an opportunity to kind of talk about our program and answer any questions you have. I think we'll probably wait till the end to answer questions if that works for everybody. Like Catherine said, I'm Jared Thalen. I've been with the PA116 program as an analyst for about 15 years. And my coworker Jen is here as well. She's been with the program for 5 years. 5 years as an analyst.
Yeah,
So about 2 decades of experience here combined.
I learned everything from Jared.
So these are kind of the three main points we want to talk about today: the impacts of the PA116 program in Michigan, how to enroll into the program, and the tax credit benefit that comes along with being in the program. And then we'll round it up with solar development and PA116, how those two things can work together. The PA116 program started in 1975, was passed into law as Public Act 116 of 1974, and then the program got rolling the next year. The official name for the program is the Farmland and Open Space Preservation Program, but most people know it as PA116, so that's what we'll be calling it today. The way the program works is a landowner signs a temporary agreement with the state of Michigan. They're agreeing to not develop their property for anything other than agricultural development. And the reason this was started is back in the 70s, there was a huge loss of farmland due to high taxes in the state. Cropland was being lost at about 6%, a rate about 6% per year in Michigan at that time. So the PA116 program was started to alleviate that, to kind of solve that problem. The purpose of it is to preserve farmland and keep it in farming. And then the landowner gets a tax incentive for being part of the program. And we'll explain that tax incentive a little bit more later. One interesting thing to note is Michigan's a little different with the way they tax things than our neighboring states. As far as property taxes go, farmland in Michigan is taxed based on the market value, where our neighboring states tax it more on the use of the land. So farmland generally in our neighboring states is taxed at a lower rate than in Michigan. So this program kind of helps even that playing field for farmers. Currently, we've got about 44,000 PA116 agreements that are active in the state, which amounts to 3.3 million acres of farmland. That is about 1/3 of the total farmland in Michigan. So that 1/3 of the farmland in Michigan is currently under a PA116 agreement and is being preserved from development. These agreements, like I said, are temporary. They run anywhere from 10 to 90 years. They can be renewed as well. So if the landowner signs up for 10 years, they can renew that agreement up to the total of 90 years. And in 2020, the slide says over $57 million of tax credits were issued. And we just got the numbers from last year. It was $67 million of tax credits issued for 2021. This slide gives you kind of just a look at the state as far as the concentration of farmland in Michigan that's enrolled in PA116. Monroe County is right in the middle, kind of about 21 to 35% of the farmland in Monroe County is enrolled in PA116. And then the darker the shading is, the higher the percentage of land that's enrolled. The four highest counties, which are Sanilac, Huron, Tuscola, and Gratiot, have over 50% of their farmland enrolled in PA116. And you can kind of see it's generally in the, kind of below Clare is where most of the land is, where you'd expect it to be, where there's more farmland, more crop land, row crops being grown, that sort of thing. So yeah, going back to the tax credit, the tax incentive to the landowner, there's a tax credit they receive on their state of Michigan income tax return for being in the program. There's also a exemption they receive from certain special assessments. The exemption is limited to assessments for water, lights, sanitary sewer, and non-farm drainage. Now, to be exempt from those assessments, your land has to be enrolled in a PA116 agreement before the assessment goes on the property. And you can't be making use of that assessment. If, for example, a municipal water line went across the property, and your land was already enrolled, you'd be exempt from that assessment up until the point you connect to it. If you connect to that line, of course, you're gonna have to pay that assessment. Or if you expire out of your PA116 agreement, of course, then at that time you'd have to pay for that assessment. Now, the major benefit that people sign up for is the tax credit that is received on the landowner's state of Michigan income tax return. The credit is calculated based on the owner's household income and what they pay in property taxes. So the example here shows $40,000 of income, which you would multiply that income by 3.5% to get 1,400. And then that 3.5% figure you subtract from the property taxes paid on the farm that year. So in this example, there's $3,000 in property taxes. The $1,400 represents 3.5% of the income, giving the landowner $1,600 of tax credit. It's also important for me to note that the property taxes that go into this formula aren't necessarily your whole tax bill. It's only the ad valorem part of your tax bill. So if you're paying interest, penalties, certain special assessments or fees that aren't calculated by the millage rate, those have to be subtracted from what you're claiming on your PA116 tax credit. Oops. All right, now I want to invite my coworker Jen up here. She's going to go through the process for applying to enroll property into PA116.
All right, thanks, Jared. I didn't even look to advance the slide.
You can just use the space bar
Space bar works.
Oh,
or the arrows.
that's way easier.
I put contacts in and then I can't see. I have to accept that I need readers too. So anyway, so Catherine asked us to come here to kind of go over applying for the program. I don't know if a lot of people have land enrolled already or considering enrolling in the program.
How much land do you have to have?
So I'll go over that, minimum 5 acres, but yeah, I'll go over that too as well. So to apply the applications, I put applications in all of your packets, and then we also kind of I just developed a draft checklist. I think we're gonna put this out there for people too. I think it'll help like the townships and whatever, and everyone in reviewing to make sure you have all these items gathered before you apply, before you send in all your information. So once you have all your information together, you fill out your application, it'll go to your local governing body first for approval or denial. If your land is located within the city or village, the application is submitted to the city or village. If it's located if the township has zoning, the township is considered the local governing body and it's submitted to your township clerk. If the township doesn't have zoning, I know we have a lot, Huron County has a lot of the zoning, so the applications go through them. And then, are you doing it? Oh. So then the local government, whoever's designated as the local government, they will send copies to all these other reviewing agencies. They'll send them to the Conservation District. I know Catherine reviews them a lot, or to the County or Regional Planning Commission. The reviewing agencies have 30 days to review. They are not the approval or denial, but they review it, and we appreciate their comments because to us, that's the boots on the ground. They know what's going on. They know if the land is in ag use, and they also are aware of then what land is in PA116 and maybe other things they can help them with, other programs. The local governing body has 45 days to approve or deny the application. During that time, we try to, like townships, you have 45 days. They have to get it typically on their board meeting. So they have that time, and then they have the time for the reviewing agencies, the 30 days to come back with comments. So they kind of do it simultaneously. So they have everything together and then they submit it to us. If your application is approved by the local governing body by November 1st of that year, your agreement will qualify or may qualify for tax credits that year. So it has to be by November 1 of 2022, then your land will qualify for tax credits in 2022. And here's the size of the parcels. Any parcels from 5 to 39.9 acres, 40 acres like a cutoff, it has to be 51% in ag use and earn $200 gross annual income per acre. The $200 gross annual income per acre is only for parcels less than 40 acres. If you have a parcel 40 acres or more, 51% in ag use. And then we also have specialty farms. Those are 15 acres minimum and 2,000 income from ag in year. And those are approved by our MDARD director. I don't know, we have a lot of those. We've had like hog farms.
Just a few, yeah, usually they're livestock.
Yeah,
operations,
livestock.
yeah.
Yep. So where they don't have the tillable acreage in there. We've had, some people, if you have a parcel that, just doesn't quite meet that 51%, we've had people combine parcels so that it does meet that 51%. You can combine parcels and put them under one agreement. We've had some people, they like their tax parcels to match up exactly with just the agreement for purposes of claiming tax credits. It's easier. But
Can I ask you
however,
a question?
Yes, sure.
I'm sorry, because I think it's appropriate to
Sure.
this line. Does it have to be zone ag?
do you want to answer that? Because I know there's one.
It does not. No, it doesn't have to be zone ag, but if it's, if the classification is not agriculture, you might be denied the tax credit by Treasury. It's not that you can't get the credit, but you would need a letter from your assessor saying the primary use of this land is ag. So that's saying a little more than what your question is asking, but the zoning doesn't come into play, no, for.
So, okay, I knew there was something. Does anyone need to go, I mean, the application, all these forms that we're creating, we're trying to make them more user friendly. So if you ever have any suggestions, feel free to let us know. We've posted everything, like I said, we have a new website. Everything is posted out there for you. I think it's a lot easier to navigate and to get through. But so then, did you want me to go through an application filling one out? You kind of talked about that, but if anybody ever has any questions, feel free to call our office. I pretty much go over the new apps. So I'm the person you can ask for.
Brenda, do you have anything specific?
No, they're pretty easy. This little cheat sheet helps.
I
And
think
have
it
my
will.
own made up too, so.
Oh, good.
Any other clerks have any questions? Oh, I see a few of them here.
I do.
Sure.
So we used to send it to the Monroe County Planning. They kind of broke up. So we don't send it there anymore, but we do send it to the Monroe Conservation, correct?
Yep,
Is
so
we all on
conservation.
board on that? Because the planning commission and the county broke up. They don't have enough people to do this, so we don't send it there anymore, which is kind of sad. Because they used to give a really good recommendation to us.
Yeah, and they take it into future planning.
Yes, because
Purposes.
it's, as township boards try to take the recommendation from these professionals, that do this kind of thing. So I just think it's kind of sad we lost our county planning for that.
Is that happening a lot or just here?
I've been told, Lucy might be able to answer this, that most counties are this way now. You don't send it to, we were one of very few left that actually sent it to Monroe County Planning, is what I was told. So,
So yeah, part of the application, it does say on there, there's a checklist. So I guess it would be an NA
yeah,
if you can't do that. So they are reviewing agencies. And like I said, we appreciate the comments to hear because I actually, I look through everything because I feel like you guys are more of the boots on the ground. I'm just getting paper and maps, that they send that come in, they're black and white. I can't tell what's what. I mean, we can do aerials,
Yeah.
but
I know the last one I went to send, I called first and they said, yeah, don't send it up here because they don't have the panel, the
That they
Monroe
use.
Planning Commission anymore to look at them to give a
Review.
recommendation.
So on a state level, you're okay with that. You just want the application and so it's okay.
yep, that's
You
kind of,
really only
it's,
send it to soil.
I don't want to say it's a courtesy, but we don't, if that's missing, an application is not rejected for that.
Right.
We just
I
need
know
the
that,
local
but it's just,
government.
it was nice to get that recommendation, so
Mhm.
us township boards knew we were doing the right thing.
Mhm. Did you also, there's also, we developed instructions for local governing bodies, so, and it kind of goes through the eligibility requirements and what to do, so I think that's out there, that I think that's really helpful too, for local governing. And I think also we're gonna have, are we gonna, like what's our new thing we're gonna do that you can subscribe to get
Oh.
current updates?
What's that? Yeah. it's
Gov email delivery?
Gov delivery. something
Yeah,
like
do you
that.
get that through conservation districts?
Um,
Gov delivery?
yeah, for multiple different
Oh.
departments within them, we sign up for different things.
Yeah,
but-
you can
Yeah.
sign up for specific things you want, you get, you get the general blast, or you can sign up for, I just want to hear about farmland. Anything current or new, and so you would be aware of everything as it comes up. So once you are enrolled in the program, it is a covenant with the land, so the agreement is with the land. There are ways, if you sell the land, yes, you can transfer it to new owners. Yes, you can split into smaller parcels as long as it meets the requirements we talked about before. It has to be minimum 5 acres. And then you can release prior to expiration, part or all. It has to meet certain criteria to be eligible to do that. There are extensions from anywhere from 7 to 90 years, and then expirations also. So we'll go through each one of those. Transfer is required when land is sold or otherwise conveyed. People think that when they sell their land that we know, we don't know. We don't know unless, so the new owner is supposed to send in a transfer request form. It's a simple 1 page, and then a copy of their new deed. And then we simply transfer the land over to the landowner, to the new landowner. We have no way of knowing when land is sold or not. So we have a lot out there. I know it's changed hands like 5-10 times, and we spend a lot of our time chasing down those deeds and trying to get it corrected. You cannot claim tax credits until the transfer is completed. You can't claim tax credits unless your agreement, even if you extend it or a new one, until it's recorded. The Michigan Department of Treasury they review for tax credits. We don't see any of that, but they can go into our database and they see if we have a recorded agreement or not. If we don't have one, they will not issue tax credits. And then, like I said, the transfers are the new owner's responsibility. A lot of times the new owners don't even know that the land's enrolled in PA116. The title company should catch that, but they don't always. So, and some land, I just had somebody call me and they didn't even know they've been enrolled since 1982, but they went to sell it and so discovered they've been enrolled. Like I said, you can split agreements. The new parcel must be at least 5 acres. Parcels between 5 and 40 must be 51% in ag use, produce $200 of gross annual income. Same requirements as for new applications, for new enrollment. So as long as you meet the split criteria, I would suggest if you are going to split it, we contact our office first before you go. Some people just go and they sell it. They sell the land. Like I said, we have no idea. And then sometimes it no longer meets the criteria, the requirements of the program. So then we have a lot of problem. They're digging out and they can't, so their land is in PA116, they can't claim tax credits. So it's better to contact us first. There are partial early terminations. If there was a structure on the land before the land was enrolled in the program, some people, you can release up to 2 acres. If more than 2 is needed, but less than 5, then we just need justification, which would be like a survey if there were more outlying buildings. So you had your home and then you had pole barns or other barns that you need this much land to encompass all of it. We do that. You do have to, well, there or a residence for someone essential to the farm up to 2 acres and public interest. If you're selling land to like a school or cemetery, I think we've had that as well. There is, I don't know if it's on the next slide, but partial terminations and as well as full terminations. There is a payback calculation. So if you're going to pull land out, if it meets the criteria, you do have to work with your assessor. We have a checklist of things that you have to provide. The survey, obviously, And then you have to have that land, we need the taxable value for the past 7 years of just that parcel that you're pulling out. We have to have that, we send it over to Treasury, they give us a payback calculation of the tax credits that you've been claiming for those past 7 years. So you do have to pay back tax credits on those. There is, same with all of these, if you take out any land, you do have to pay back the past 7 years. When there's a 6% simple interest, however, with death or disability are the only two, we don't do the 6% simple interest, or not we, Treasury. It's with Treasury. A lot of people, we don't know the numbers, we don't know what the payback is gonna be. We send everything to Treasury, they come back with the amount, we send the letter to the landowners. There is full early terminations, if someone named on the agreement passes away, within 3 years of that passing, we can pull the land, you can take the land out of PA116. You will have to pay back the past 7 years of tax credits. Same with disability. Public interest, we went over that. Farming not economically viable. I think Jared gave me an example, like if there was it Bay, where did you say? Bay County?
Well,
There was
this
a
would
flooding?
be if the soil's poor
Oh, that's the
quality,
soil.
you're not able to make a positive cash flow from farming.
Right, and that's where we call in our techs to go out. They would have to test the soil and do all that. You would have to prove why it's not economically viable. And that would be for not just, some people have asked for just, a tweak or parcel. No, it's for the whole. It would have to apply to all of the land. Surrounding land use changes. I think there was a farm, you had said like in the middle of a residential area. And it just didn't make sense for him to be farm, was it?
There's, too many new development, housing developments around the farm for it to really operate due to dust and odors and things like that.
Yeah, and these are, we don't deal with the a lot at all, or natural change in the land.
It's covered under the law, they're allowed to.
For right to farm, yeah.
Yes, right to farm, the odor, you have that protection. Or court order.
Can I just ask you a quick question on that partial and early termination and the split criteria? I've never done any kind of application. We don't do that here. Do they just contact you? I've never had someone apply.
They come through, those come through us, the split. You would see partial termination, they would be in touch if they need the taxable value breakdown.
But there's nothing, no application they would fill out here. with
Nope,
us.
it's all online or they contact us.
Last one we did was in 09. So
Okay.
that's why.
Oh,
There's a letter right there, right?
Okay.
isn't there, for full termination, though, that has to be approved through the local governing body.
They would have to be approved by the local government except for the death and disability.
Right, then they
situations.
would, okay, I mean, that's an obvious, they send us either a doctor's note or death certificate, and we take care of that, but
Yeah.
any of those other land conditions,
Yeah.
then it would have to be approved,
Okay.
because we need more local, like I said, boots on the ground.
Gotcha.
We're just in the city in the office. Extensions and expirations, you can renew minimum of 7 years. So the max is 90 years, minimum is 7 years. If you can, extend it 12 more years, 15, any number you want to. We do send an expiration letter. The year the agreement is going to expire, like in 2022, we will start sending out expiration notices probably in the summer to let landowners know it's going to expire, and they'll send it back to us, let it extend or expire. If we don't hear from anyone, it takes, I think within the next year, then we just start the process to expire. We contact Treasury, they provide the payback calculation. We send a letter to say, hey, you owe this much for tax credits claimed in the past 7 years. And if it's not paid within 30 days, we can place a lien on the land. And if this is one a lot of people don't seem to understand, if you let your agreement expire, be aware you will have to pay back the past 7 years of tax credits claimed. So even though a lot of people think, well, I enrolled until 2022, I want it to expire this year. And we say, well, now you have to pay back the past 7 years of tax credits. And they think, but I fulfilled my agreement. Why do I have to do that? Because it's in the statute. I don't have any other answer other than that's what's in the statute. So I advise people, I don't like to tell people to take land out, but if they have other estate planning purposes or something, stop claiming tax credits. If you know you have to let it expire or do something, just stop claiming credits so you don't have to pay back later. Don't like to tell people to do that, but because we want it to stay in A. lately, we are working remotely still. We left in March of 2020, right? We thought we were going home for 2 weeks. Here we are still at home. We just got pushed back to the beginning of May. So we're hoping to be back in the office soon. I think it took us a bit, but now we're really plugging along at home. I mean, we're not missing a beat, really. We're not. We have our mail now. We were having it physically, like snail mail that would get to our office downtown. Then we'd have to ship it to somebody else's house and have it scanned and put in. Now we have a company that picks it up. It's with a state government, Graphic Sciences. Once we found out how inexpensive it was to do that and how much time it saved us in time, honestly. They pick it up every day and they scan it and we just pick it up electronically. So that's created a lot of efficiencies for us. Our database is fabulous now. Paperless processing, we did have issues in the beginning with network speed. We've gotten around that for our program. We're learning, a lot of people don't have this, but we have our own special way into the system that we move really fast. It's great. Agreements are mailed bi-weekly. So since we're not meeting in the office, we still have to get together to notarize agreements before we send them out. So we do have a bi-weekly date that we meet at the office so that we try to keep everything flowing as best we can for all of our landowners. We did come up with, we had a backlog. I think we were down some staff. We were down, Rich Harlow retired July 2019. We just got a new manager last year. He's been on for about a year now.
Yeah.
We had also lost a tech. And then we were down someone out on maternity leave. So we had some things build up. We're getting back there now. And we went through return to office date is May 2nd, 2022 as of this week, I think. On average, every year, we have 6,570 new agreements. Oh no, I'm sorry, 580 new agreements, but 6,570 agreements that we touch per year. 580 new applications, transfers, extensions, expirations, other combo. So it's a lot of, we have like 44,000 agreements. A lot of it though is maintenance and us, keeping up with it and then new applications coming in. So, but we all kind of, people designated to focus on certain areas and then we help each other out. Everybody works collaboratively to keep it all moving for everybody. Extensions are currently, they're maybe 45 days out. I think that's only when we get a slew of them, when they all come in at the same time. So we will, like I said, we will send out like summer and say, hey, your agreement's going to expire. Well, we send out like 2,000-3,000 notices to people. They all come back at the same time. So it takes a little bit, 45 days to get them all back out the door. Transfers is our biggest backlog right now, about 6 months, because there's a lot of transfers going on. I mean, there's a lot of people transferring land, selling land, or just catching up, title companies catching it. So we are all we have somebody dedicated to that, and then we're all going to try to hit that to get that caught up too. Splits are about 90 days. They require a little more review to make matching up legal descriptions. New applications, within statute, they have to be reviewed within 60 days. Terminations, full and partial, also we try to get those done within 60 days, but then they're sent to the Michigan Department of Treasury for payback, and we're kind of at their mercy when they come back with that calculation. So we can expedite if there's a sale or something going on. They're really good at working with us. Is this you?
Yeah, I can take over.
Okay. I feel like I've babbled enough.
All right, these are just a few things that we want to touch on there. Some are newer than others, but the first bullet points are newest thing, I guess, that we're doing is we had been sending out reports, which are basically just an Excel spreadsheet showing all the agreements in a certain county or township. And we were required by statute to do that, to send those to equalization offices and local governments. Most of those we've been sending by paper, except for a few people who've requested them to be sent electronically. We've been emailing those, but it's a huge time commitment for us to do that. So we're working on posting those online for the first time. And it's still fairly new, so I don't know the exact mechanics of it, but basically what it'll be is each county will have a spreadsheet you can download. So if your township's in Monroe County, you could download the Monroe County spreadsheet, look for your township. Your township will be identified on there, so you could filter just for your township if that's all you want to see. But we're excited for that because it's going to be a huge time saver for us, and I think for you guys too. It'll be a huge time saver. We started a project with DNR a couple years ago to map some of our PA116 parcels, which means creating shape files for the parcels so that we can show them on a GIS map. We started to take that on ourselves before 2020, and then we had to start working from home and dealing with those challenges, working through some things. So the mapping project kind of been on the back burner, but we want to get back to that again and be able to have another way to kind of share our information with local governments, with even CPAs, with solar developers, just with anyone who wants to see where the PA116 land is in a shapefile format.
So how much do you have covered so far? Curiosity.
We've got 5 acres so far.
Oh.
Yeah. No, sorry,
5 counties.
5 counties.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We
I wondered
started
how
by
productive they
home, so
were.
we got Enum, Eaton, Ionia, Clinton, Shiawassee is what we've done so
You
far.
should start at Southeast Florida.
I know, you should have told us. Yeah.
Did we have a choice? I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think we did.
Yeah.
Well, come our way.
Well, yeah, we'll keep you in mind.
Okay.
And then the other thing that's not brand new, but fairly new is our new PA116 solar panel policy, which is our approach to dealing with commercial solar development on PA116 land. Of course, if someone puts a solar panel on their land and they use it to power their home or their barns, that's fine. That's considered agricultural use. It's automatically permitted to do that. But these are situations where solar developer wants to lease a farmer's land to put panels on it for sending energy to the grid. So in I want to think it was 2016, maybe, when legislation was passed by the Michigan legislature to create some energy goals. One of those goals was to have 35% of Michigan's energy needs generated by renewable energy. So that's kind of the background to this. And in 2019, June 2019, Governor Whitmer issued a policy statement to allow PA116 land to be used for commercial solar development under certain conditions. Prior to that, the PA116 policy was it's not permitted. So that was a big change. Our MDARD was part of these policy discussions, and we feel like it was a good solution to a program that meets the energy needs of Michigan, and it also preserves farmland for the future. So it's we think it's good for the farmers. It's good for Michigan's energy needs. It provides a diversification of the farmer's income to have some of that income from the solar leases. So our policy is it allows the farmers in our program to voluntarily enter into a solar lease and to have those solar panels placed on the property under PA116. It doesn't say you have to enter a solar lease if that's not what you want. There's no reason you would have to do that just because you're in PA116. And we put additional conditions in our agreements to protect the land so it can be farmed in the future after the solar facility is gone. Yes.
In order to determine what kind of provisions you would put in, where was the data that you collected looking at, is there harm or not harm to know what provisions to put in? Say if somebody had a solar farm for 10 years, 15 years, what data did you guys go to? Where did you go to get the parameters to put into this to say that it was safer or whatever?
Well, so I wasn't in those meetings personally, so I can't speak too much to the specifics of the data. I know that the Michigan Environmental Council was part of one of the stakeholders involved. I'm trying to remember who else was involved. There's a large group of stakeholders involved to craft this policy, to try to cover all the bases: environmental concerns, agricultural concerns, energy concerns. So I'm sorry, I don't have those. I don't have much to say to the data part of it.
Okay, because I mean, somebody makes a determination like about the science, okay, scientifically, we looked at it, this is what we came up with after this and this was looked at. I just wondered where that was.
Well, I guess maybe the next slide would help answer it a little bit, because these are some of the things some of these provisions are what we put in the program, in the amended agreements to try to protect that farmland for future agricultural use. So the process, and this is in the packet, is if a landowner has entered a solar lease and they're getting to the point where they're going to have solar panels placed on the land, this is the application to amend the PA116 agreement to allow the solar panels to be constructed. So this would first be submitted to the local government, and then it would come to our office to continue the review. But basically what if you look on pages. Page 3 is a detailed list of the provisions that are put in the amended agreement to permit the solar. It's the page with the signature lines on the bottom. But just a bullet point list, the landowner is agreeing to not claim the PA116 tax credit while their land is under the solar panels. They're also agreeing to extend their PA116 agreement for however many years that solar lease is for. So for an example, if they start construction on solar panels and there's 10 years remaining on their PA116 agreement, after those panels have been after the solar lease is over, those panels have been removed, all the other equipment's been removed from the property, it's been restored to agricultural use, we would revert that amended agreement back to the regular PA116 agreement, and then they would be able to claim the tax credits again and still have 10 years to fulfill on that agreement. So it's sort of, you could look at it as the agreement kind of being suspended in some ways, but it's not like they could just do whatever they want with the land. The land can't be developed for anything. It can only be developed for the solar energy generation. There's also in the amended agreement to the landowners agreeing to fully decommission the solar facility at the end of the lease, agreeing to have a surety bond or letter of credit in place to cover the cost of the decommissioning, agreeing to plant and maintain ground cover to prevent erosion of the topsoil and pollinator habitat wherever it's feasible. And then they're also agreeing to maintain the drainage of the property. So if any tiles are broken, that there's not flooding issue where the land becomes a wetland and can't be farmed again. Yes.
If a farmer decides to only put a solar farm on a piece or portion of his property that's enrolled, can what's remaining is used as ag be still enrolled?
Yes.
If it meets the 51 or
It would-
whatever it is?
Right, you're exactly right. Yep. So that's what we would look at is, does that remaining land meet the split requirements? Because what we would have to do is split that agreement into two, where this agreement is going under amended because it's going to have solar panels on it. But this one is not going to have solar panels on it, so it would just remain a regular agreement and be able to claim the tax credit. Now, what we do is we recommend these last 4 bullet points that have the stars on them, that those responsibilities be designated to the solar developer in the solar lease. And we look for that in the solar lease language before we move forward with approving the amended agreement, just to show that the solar company is taking on the responsibility for decommissioning. They're paying for the surety bond to be in place to cover the cost of decommission and the others as well. Yes.
You're saying the solar developer, right? And they're usually LLC. How do we know they're gonna be there in 20 years?
That's why we have the bond.
That's why.
That's why we have the bond in place, because You're right, if that company's not there anymore, there's no one to pay the bill, yeah.
And who, a follow-up here, who is going to take the responsibility? You say the landowner is, but what if you see something, what does the, what do you guys do? How do you regulate this? As in, who's watching this? As in making sure that the maintaining of the drainage of the property, you're just giving it all to the landowner? And what if they don't get it done?
What if
If they don't maintain their drainage on their property?
that's why we look for the language in the solar lease to say this is the solar developer's responsibility.
Which
That's,
is an LLC that could go out in 5 years.
And it is going out locally. I mean, we've got one in our area, they're on the 5th contract and there's still no panel in place. So,
We learn that they start, but they buy and sell
yes,
all these solar farms all the time.
are they solar farms or they're just leases? That,
They're LLCs.
The option.
Right.
because we've seen where a company will buy the solar lease with the option to
So they're really not.
use it, but it's not necessarily gonna have solar panels on the
And what
property.
about the surety bond that you have, like, how do you know that that place is gonna, that entity is gonna be there when you need it? Then does it fall back onto the owner to fix those things?
Well,
yes,
or-
it is.
The
It's a solar
surety,
company, I think, so.
the surety bond is backed by the surety company. So that bond, they're taking on, it's like an insurance policy, basically.
Right,
They're
but let's say somebody did it and it's been 15 years. What if the place that has the surety bond goes out of, like you say, out of business or whatever, the entity is no longer there? Then what?
Well, the language in the bond states that they have to pay out that bond. If the bond's gonna expire and not be replaced, then they have to pay out that bond to the state of Michigan.
So if they go bankrupt or something
Yeah,
like that, then you like.
The lawyers get involved. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I can't speak to that. That's way above my pay grade.
Like in our thing, I mean, because we got the solar companies come in, they drive the pillars in, they crush all your tile, because they're not gonna go out and check where your tile are at before they start putting posts in. So now you got a water issue, you've got wetland concerns after 5 years. So how does that fall into going back to farmland on PA116? Like, if it goes to wetland, is that still covered as suitable for PA116?
Well, I think it has to be under, I don't remember the exact rules for what
Because I mean, if they
causes
don't-
it to be classified as wetland. I don't think it just being underwater for
Well,
a
I
year
mean,
would.
but the grass is, all these foreign objects start growing because they can't take care of it. There's nothing on it. So bare land, I mean, what is it, 3 to 5 years? Technically, ground can go to wetland.
Is that it? Okay.
I think
That,
So,
well, that's why we look for it in the solar lease, that they're taking that responsibility to repair those tiles to maintain the drainage of the property.
they'll destroy a whole farm in a matter of days.
And that's why we look for the language has to be in place before this, obviously, before they can go out and do anything. They have to have that bond in place. Everything has to be in place. It has to go through our checklist, what we
Right.
look for before the solar company can even start doing anything.
Now, this solar panel application, I was kind of reading through it and, because they have to file here at the township level. What would be our grounds for denial? I didn't really see anything in here, just if they didn't have all the stuff they're supposed to turn in. Because I mean, what's our responsibility? I don't really want to start policing solar panels.
Sure, understand.
I've got enough. I run elections, I got enough.
So yeah, completeness is a big one. Is
Okay.
everything complete? Everything there that should be there.
Mhm.
And then there has to be they have to have some level of approval at the government level, at the local government level, so like a special use permit, even if it's a conditional permit. There has to be something there that the local government is on board with this project.
And this gets filled out when because a lot of people already have signed contracts with
Yes.
the solar companies. When does this get filled out?
We recommend, so a lot of times people might have a solar lease with a company for several years before anything gets constructed, or even there's a plan for something to be constructed. So we recommend, once there's a site plan,
Okay.
then that's the time to fill out the application to enroll, because that's going to be, that's when you know where the panels are going to be placed, because you might not even have panels on your property if you decide solar use.
Wouldn't it be important for a local government to have an ordinance in place with their standards of what they want met
Mhm,
when that comes in?
definitely. Yes, very important to have to have a local ordinance.
But when you guys oversee that and make it the stricter part of it, if the township has a weak ordinance, would you guys have more of a stronger
Well,
say in it?
it's so that it could be, we're more restrictive, it could be the township's more restrictive.
But do
It
you go
could be
for
either
the
way.
stronger one versus the weaker one? I don't know the logistics.
Well, we have our provisions in the amended agreement that we say these have to be met. If the townships is weaker than ours, we're still gonna say we have to meet these. We're not gonna
Okay.
default
so-
to, yeah.
Yeah.
But the township might be stronger than ours. They
And that
might
should be the
require more.
township. Yeah, whatever.
And the solar company is gonna have to comply with both of them, with the state requirements and the local requirements. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned the state of Michigan when you were talking about enforcing the decommissioning plan. So if a farmer believes that the land needs to be put back into agriculture and he goes to court to, whatever entity he's trying to get them to do it, does he have state of Michigan's back? I mean, are you working with the person to make those things go, or is it still the farmer's responsibility?
So we require that the decommissioning bond covers the cost of removing all the panels, all the posts, all the wires, everything, and restoring the land to agricultural use. So I would say that if it's not restored, we would be able to, I don't know if we could enter into a lawsuit on the landowner's behalf, but I'm pretty sure we can't. But we could say, well, we're gonna draw on the surety bond to make sure the land's restored to agricultural use. That's
So you got their back, but not going to court.
So you don't.
I'm not an
We'll see
attorney,
what
guys.
Right.
I don't know honestly. What's,
I mean, if they're a
I'd have
team,
to talk
if they're a
to my
team, that sounds pretty good, right? But if
Yeah.
they're not a team, it doesn't sound very good.
I know for sure we could draw on the surety bond because that's between the state of Michigan and the solar developer. We're not a party to the solar lease, so I don't think we could have anything to do with that.
I see.
But I could be wrong. Yes.
I have two questions. First, if someone
I'll
who
be getting up in a
has
second.
a PA116 agreement submits a solar panel application to MDARD, there's going to be a land split. The split will be what's in the solar panel use and what remains in agricultural use.
Possibly, unless that whole parcel is going under solar panels.
Correct.
Yes,
But there will be two PA116 agreements issued then.
right. There would be two agreements. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
The next question, if a township has their own zoning ordinance for solar, and they require that decommissioning bond be held or be in the name of the township for a project,
Mhm.
does the solar company also have to have or post a bond with MDARD or the state of Michigan?
So we've gotten that question before. We could have one solar or one surety bond that names township and MDARD together as beneficiaries. We'd accept that, or if that's not possible for whatever reason, I don't know why it wouldn't be possible, but if it's not possible, then they would have to do a separate bond with the state. So we do require that even if there's a bond with the local government, there has to be a bond with the state.
Yeah, my only concern would be MDARD coming in and using that bond for other purposes.
as opposed to putting the property involved in that solar project, decommissioning it, putting it back to agricultural use.
But
Yeah,
it's
that
in
wouldn't,
language, it's in the
that wouldn't be
language.
possible with the language
It has
that,
to be restored
that's in
to
the
ag.
bonds.
But that wasn't my issue. My concern would be the MDARD or the state of Michigan coming back in and trying to draw on that surety bond for purposes other than decommissioning the agricultural land in a specific project that is covered by that surety bond.
Yeah, so each surety bond is for one particular piece of land. And it's, and there's sort of a grace period to say that, you know, after there's certain conditions that have to be met for us to draw on that bond. One of them is if the land, if the energy, I think it's the solar facility is not generating energy for, I forget how many months, maybe 18 months or something like that, then we could draw on the bond to say it has to be decommissioned. So no, it's very, very narrow as far as the wording is in the bond to say when the state of Michigan can draw on that bond and what it can be used for.
And you're saying that there would be a bond issued for each parcel involved in that solar project?
Possibly,
the
or it could be the
entire
entire project, but it would be, so we're looking for a bond to be issued for the land, just the land that's enrolled in PA116. So I've seen it where the solar company did a separate bond for each tax parcel. And then and I've seen it where they've done a bond for the whole thing together, the whole project that's enrolled in PA116. So I've seen it both ways. Good questions. Yes. So the amended agreement, it can be transferred, of course, if the ownership of the land changes while the solar panels are on there. That agreement would just be transferred to the new owner. And they possibly can be terminated if those criteria that Jen mentioned are met, which most likely would be if a landowner passes away or becomes disabled. The other ones probably aren't very feasible, but it can be terminated. The 7-year payback though would come from the 7 years prior to the land being put under solar panels. So that's a calculation that's done ahead of time. Because while the panels are on there, no credits can be claimed. So that's the way that formula would work. To date, so the policy went into effect, well, it was announced by the governor June of 2019. We got the mechanics of it kind of ironed out later that year. And then in 2020, we had 4 agreements amended for solar. Last year we had 9. And then in just this calendar year, which is just almost 2 months old, we've had 2 agreements amended for solar. And then we've had projects proposed that would include another 61 additional PA116 agreements. So they kind of keeps ramping up. Not to say all those agreements will go under amended. They just have solar leases that were bought on them that we're aware of. They might not come to anything, but at least some of them probably will be become solar parcels. Yeah.
When you terminate an agreement, you have to pay back any tax credits that were given. I've heard that said.
Mm-hmm.
So when the solar lease ends, you've got 20 years that you haven't taken any credit.
Correct.
So is that the ideal time to terminate your agreement? Because there'll be no backtrack.
No.
Well, you would see, so you would owe back the 7 years prior to.
Oh, when it, from
Prior
the
to
20
it being
years
suspended.
before.
From 20 years before.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's still those years remaining. And you'd have to qualify to terminate it. You'd have to meet the criteria for early termination because it's not going to expire out at that time. It's going to expire out whenever the expiration date was, plus however many years that, plus that 20 years that the solar lease was for. All right, we could take more questions too if you have more, but this is just how to contact us, fax, email, address, phone number, and then our website, of course, has a lot of information, a lot of forms that we try to keep updated.
Is there a point at which the payback is no longer a requirement to exit PA116? So like you have your initial agreement, if I want to extend for how many years, otherwise I have to pay back. At what point do you not have to pay back? Or are you just perpetually in PA116? What if you hit the 90 and then are you paying back 100 years of tax credits when you expire?
No, it's only
It's-
7 years.
Only the
So
7-year
if you
period.
know, like I said, if you know you want to let it expire, you're gonna let it expire. If we say stop claiming tax credits then.
Right.
Then there's nothing to pay back.
So I think that the
Just that 7
idea,
years.
yeah,
Okay.
behind it is to always pay back the last 7 is to encourage people to do longer term contracts.
Right.
So if you just do 7, or if you do a 10-year contract, you're only keeping 3.
I see.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yes,
The program
What you
goes
do is
90 years or
transfer your
99
IRAs
years?
to Roth
90
IRAs,
is the
so
max,
taxes
yes.
go up,
Okay,
then you don't
so at the end of
qualify.
that 90-year period of time when the parcel's been enrolled in PA116 for 90 years, is the participant still required to pay the prior 7 years tax back?
I think so, but we haven't hit that yet.
Well, I understand, I'm asking
The
because,
program's about 45 years old, so we're happy.
because that would mean that the program actually only goes 83 years, not 90 years. So I'm asking the question because it would be applicable at some point in time.
Yeah, so I thought about that a little bit. Which is not good. So
You know, everything is put in place and then later you go back and look at it. Like we're kind of looking at language in the statute now, like, how is this fit? There's
mean,
always a circumstance.
that's,
Yeah, and
that
it
could
doesn't
change.
specify in the statute, I don't believe.
Right.
What I've thought is, okay, what if that happened? Well, the agreement could expire and then you would have this amount to pay. Let's say you let that go under a lien. So you have a lien on the property for that amount. Well, if your land's under a lien, which we didn't talk about, this is,
We don't like to.
yeah, I'll say it anyway. So you can reinstate an agreement if if the land hasn't been sold or the use of the land hasn't changed to something else.
But if the program expires in 90 years and, you know, that there is a possibility for re-enrolling or extending it.
Depends how you read the statute. I mean, I could, yeah, it's all interpretation really. Because I could see that if it goes under a lien, the statute says if your land's under a lien and you haven't sold it or changed the use of it, you can reinstate it under a new agreement. Right. And not have to pay that lien. So that's how I think it would work currently, if the statute doesn't change. You would just stay in the program, start a new agreement, and your clock would start over basically.
For another 90 years.
Yeah, it's legislators.
Yeah.
Yes.
You said that if you don't have a parcel that's big enough to get into the PA116 program, but you have several smaller ones, you can combine those.
If they're in one township under the same zoning,
It
right?
has to be in the same township, and
Correct.
not the same county, same township.
It depends where the zoning is. So
Yes.
if the township has the zoning authority, then it has to be in the same township. But if the county has a zoning authority, it could be in that county. Yeah.
What if they were contiguous parcels in two different counties?
We still can't.
We can't,
do
I've
it.
had that, I just went through that with some in, Bath and East Lansing and that, so they had to go to 3 different approvals. So they're under different agreements.
Yeah, early on, you said, you showed the calculation with household income.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, now my land is in a trust, and I'm sure there's land in LLCs and corporations.
Mhm.
How the word household is kind of oriented towards the family farm, but we have less and less family farms. So could you comment on that?
Yeah, so household income would include any non-farm income as well, not just farm income. So if you have a trust and you're the initiator of the trust and the trustee, then you would be able to claim the credit on your individual income tax return. You wouldn't be claiming it under the trust name. If you're a member of LLC, then you're still, you have your own household income and you're claiming the credit under your individual income tax return. Same if you're a partner under a partnership. Where it gets a little messy is if it's owned by a corporation, a C corp, or by a trust where it's under like a like a successor trustee, right? Where you didn't originate the trust, but now you're the successor trustee. then that credit has to be claimed by the trust, not by you as an individual. And the formula for that is very complicated, I would say. You have to have 5 times the amount that you pay in property taxes that trust has to be receiving from the farm in receipts. So it kind of got lumped in under the corporate tax filing structure, which is why it's done that way. So yeah, it's something to talk to your CPA about, really, your tax preparer, because I kind of already talked beyond my damn expertise right there. All right. Well, if no one has any other questions, we'll be around. We'll hang around a little bit if you guys want to talk one-on-one. But thank you very much for this opportunity, and